Welcome back to the channel where my goal is to take science and my experiences, combine them together to hopefully make you all better lifters. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at creatine monohydrate, one of the most popular supplements in the industry. We're going to take a look at, what it does, why you should potentially take it, what are some possible side effects, and at the end, I will give you my honest opinion on this supplement. First, we're going to go ahead and take a look at how creatine works. This is one of those funny things where I find almost everyone I talk to in the gym, the first thing that they'll mention as far as the supplement goes is creatine. But there's a lot of misconceptions as far as how this compound's working in your body and some of the side effects. I will say, if you've watched my 3 best supplements to take video, I did go through how creatine works, so you may want to just skip forward, skip this section, or if you want to watch it again. Also, if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link above so that you can check the rest of those supplements out. All right, so creatine works by influencing our body's ability to utilize energy, right? And we'll call this the energy system in your body. Now, you all may be familiar with ATP, right? This is oftentimes used interchangeably with energy, and that's because your body uses this molecule in order to produce energy, or at least store it so that we can use it in the gym or for our everyday job anytime in life. Now, ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. And if I were to draw this molecule just very simply, it would look like this. An adenosine with 3 phosphates, hence the triphosphate, right? And what your body does is it uses this molecule as storage, and whenever you go to use energy, it will grab a hold of this phosphate and pull it off, to be put simply. And whenever this phosphate gets pulled off, right, it releases energy that you can then go and use for your everyday life. Now, the byproduct from this, right, is this ATP then gets converted to ADP, right? And I can draw it like this, right? Phosphate gets pulled off, utilized for energy, and then you have ADP, which stands for adenosine diphosphate. Okay, so this is left behind, but because of the structure of the molecule, your body is not strong enough to pull off that second phosphate and release any more energy. So before you can utilize this molecule anymore, you need to find another phosphate from somewhere and attach it to turn it back into ATP. It's a cycle. And that's where creatine comes in. Okay, so creatine is actually creatine phosphate. There's a phosphate group attached to it, and this is a molecule naturally stored in your muscles, right? We get it from mostly red meats in your diet. So this is one of those things. If you prefer not to take a supplement, you could eat red meat, but usually because of the effective dose of creatine being 5 grams, you would need to eat, something around 5 pounds of red meat a day to get that same dose. So it's usually easier just to take it as a supplement. So your body takes this creatine molecule, pulls the phosphate off, and can then reattach it to this ADP to turn it back into ATP and restart the cycle all over again. And that's the importance of creatine. It provides those phosphates for your body to keep this energy system going. Okay, so I do want to go through some misconceptions about creatine and this molecule, right? And here I have 3 of the most common ones. And inevitably, every time I talk with someone about creatine, usually one of these comes up as a concern, right? The first is that creatine inherently causes kidney issues. This is not true. Creatine is one of the most studied supplements on the market. It has been reliably shown to be safe. Now, where some of this has come from as far as the kidney stress is that whenever you take creatine as a supplement, you will produce more uric acid in your urine. So, whenever you go to the doctor to get your kidneys checked, one of the main tests that they look for is uric acid levels. So, if they don't know that you're taking creatine, then they will see that marker and believe that you're in kidney failure. And they'll be like, oh no, we have to get this fixed right now. When in reality, it's a byproduct from the creatine usage in your body, and it's kind of like a red herring, right? It's a false positive. So kind of keep that in mind. It's not because your kidneys are being harmed. This is just a byproduct that doctors normally look for. And if you're on creatine, it's no longer reliable, that uric acid. Second thing I want to mention is creatine is not a steroid. It's common to be in conversation and someone be under the impression that creatine is a steroid and it's not allowed for drug tested competition. That is not the case, right? I'm not going to get into steroids, but essentially those are going to be hormones in your body, and creatine is simply not that, as we had just looked at. I'm a drug tested athlete. I've taken creatine for my whole career, so I can confirm it will not fail you on a drug test. And then the last point is about the water retention. So most people do feel some significant water retention when they take creatine. I have felt this effect, but usually people will equate this with it being bad, right? And they'll talk about how you have to drink more water while you're on creatine. This is for an entirely different reason, and it's something similar to how salt works in the body. So I want to take a moment and go ahead and talk about why this isn't necessarily bad. So here I've drawn up a diagram looking at a very simplistic muscle cell, and then water and what we call solutes in the system. So a solute could be anything that's dissolved within water. Now, how your body works, how these cells work, is they are constantly trying to find this balance. It's called osmotic pressure of how many solutes, right, or things are dissolved in the fluids of the cell, and how many are on the outside. Maybe that's in your bloodstream or outside of the cell membrane. So in a normal system, you get this balance of an amount of water per amount of solute. Now, anytime that you take in something that's going to go into your muscle body, this could be creatine, but it could also be salt. That's kind of the example that I like to use, and most of us have felt that feeling if they consume a lot of salt, it's that bloated feeling. This is from this phenomena we're about to explain right now. So let's say I take in more solutes. I have more salt into the system. Because of this osmotic pressure where water wants to be in this equilibrium of number of solutes to how much water there is on the inside and outside of the cell, by consuming more salt, more water molecules are going to be drawn into the cell, right? In order to create that balance from the osmotic pressure between the cell membrane. Okay, so by eating more salt, you're drawing in more water. That's what gives you that bloated feeling. Now, let's take salt and switch that with creatine. It works the exact same way. So by taking creatine, you are introducing more solutes into your cell body, right, of the muscle cell, And that in turn wants to draw in water molecules to bring this back to balance, the number of solutes on the outside to the number on the inside. And what that does is it inflates your cells and makes you feel slightly bloated, and that's called water retention. Now, this is purely a side effect of consuming creatine. You're going to take in that water. That's the reason for the weight gain. Now, there's nothing bad about this as long as you're keeping water flowing through your body. If you're dehydrated, just like eating a bunch of salt while you're not drinking water, it's going to work the same way. You're going to get more dehydrated faster. But as far as risks of taking creatine, there are no risks involved, or at least the risks are about the same as if you ate more salt in your diet, which, let's be honest, most of us eat more salt than we should anyway. So that's how the water retention works in creatine monohydrate. So now that we've gone through some of these common misconceptions and how it works, I just want to run down one last list of, what I think the pros to creatine are and why it's one of my favorite supplements. So the first thing is going to be the price. Creatine is relatively cheap. It can be mass produced very easily. And now's a good time for me to add in, I am sponsored by Bulk Supplements, so they have sent me this creatine to go ahead and review for you all. But overall, you can get creatine at a variety of different companies, and you're going to get quality stuff. But when you buy in bulk, the price is going to be a great factor because compared to the effect that creatine has, the price really is worth it. It's one of the cheaper supplements out there. And then also the taste, right? Creatine doesn't really have a taste to it. And if I open up the bag, you can see in there, it is just a powder that mixes fairly easily with water. And I just drink it with water in the mornings at school. But it can be mixed with juices and pre-workouts and things like that. And the taste isn't bad at all. Now, a couple of the cons, you have to take it consistently for it to work, right? If you just take it once, you're not going to feel the effects. It has to be for weeks on end to saturate your muscles to really get that effect. Overall, my rating on creatine, I put it in my S tier, which is the very top tier of my supplements list. It is a staple for my cabinet, and that's why it was in my top 3 supplements that you should use category. So if you all enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Check out my other videos. And until next time, happy training.